Okay. Now calling this meeting of the Coventry Town Council to order at 7:39 PM. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Here.
Councilmember Ludwig. Here. Councilmember Shockley.
Here.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Here.
President Lima.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. In the event of an emergency, follow the exit signs lit up over the doors in the back of the auditorium or in the front, or exit out the way that you came. Thank you for the police and fire detail here this evening. At this time, I will seek a motion to take the agenda out of order.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion by Vice President Blank, second by Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig.
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
Yes.
President Lima.
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Move to resolutions of the council. Item B, resolution 2023-67 to enter into an agreement for Lake George Drainage Project with William Anthony Excavating, Inc., 3666 Quaker Lane, North Kingston, Rhode Island, 02852, in the amount of $447,500. This is on page 6 to 9 in your packets. The resolution reads as follows: whereas in the town of Coventry has prepared the plans and specifications for the Lake George Drainage Project to alleviate flooding and roadway integrity issues. Scope includes the replacement of existing culverts on Johnson Boulevard, replacement of the Lake George outlet structure, and regrading of the drainage swales at York Drive. On August 21st, 2023, 6 sealed bids were received for the Lake George Drainage Project invitation for bid, and the low bidder was William Anthony Excavating, Inc., in the amount of $447,500. And based on evaluation of the experience, references, and financial/bonding ability of William Anthony Excavating, Inc., the town engineer recommends award of a contract for the construction of the Lake George Drainage Project to William Anthony Excavating, Inc., in the amount of $447,500. Now therefore be it resolved that the Coventry Town Council approves the contract award for Lake George Drainage Project to William Anthony Excavating, Inc., in the amount of $447,500. Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second it.
second by Councilmember Shockley. Manager Perillo, I'll let you lead off here.
Madam President, members of the council, this has been an ongoing problem for several years on Johnson Boulevard in front of the school. We've decided to utilize some of our ARPA money to handle this project once and for all. The $447 is the contracted price. That does not include a separate fee of $167,000 that Rhode Island Energy is going to be doing to fix the line that runs to that similar project. So the total is approximately $780,000, and that will all be coming out of the ARPA account.
Mr. Levesque.
So the Rhode Island Energy work is the relocation of the 4-inch gas main that currently runs longitudinal to the roadway. Because of the culverts being increased in size, it has to be relocated below the new culverts in Johnson Boulevard.
Thank you. Discussion for members of the council. Councilmember Shockley.
Just a couple questions. So it looks like the project will come in under the expected amount. When you include in the gas line relocation, it comes in at more about $615,000.
Correct.
Can you give more information on the experience and references? Just because the winning bid was so far under the other bids.
So there was an attachment with numerous recommendations and work experience of the contractor. I know the contractor is currently working with a developer in town on 2 projects. One being the Oaks at East Shore, and the other one is the Oaks at Hope Furnace, which are 2 extensive civil construction projects.
So are they about the same, like, is this a much larger project? Is this about the same size?
No, this is a fraction of the size of one of those projects.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
it's very straightforward.
okay, just
Yep.
sometimes the lowest bidder is something to be
Right.
worried about as much as the highest bidder.
Further discussion from members of the council? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
At this time, I'll seek a motion to go into executive session for the following: executive or closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, recollective bargaining of the Coventry School-related personnel, Local 1075 contract, an executive or closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, recollective bargaining of the Coventry Teachers Alliance contract, Local 1075 contract. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Vice President LeBlanc,
I'll second it.
second from Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Councilmember Shockley.
Can we speak to whether or not the SRP contract could be voted on this evening? Not to say it will, regardless of the fact that it's not included in open session and instead it's in executive session only.
Since the vote is not scheduled to be an open session, you would have to take the vote in executive session and report the vote out in public session.
Thank you for that information.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua, second by Councilor Shockley. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Could I have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session?
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
Second.
second by Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Members of the public, the council met in executive session to discuss the following pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, recollective bargaining of the Coventry School-Related Personnel SRP Local 1075 contract, and pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, recollective bargaining of the Coventry Teachers Alliance CTA Local 1075 contract. A discussion was had, no votes were taken. As pertaining to the SRP contracts, the council did have a discussion on that and reached consensus and had their questions answered. I know there was question tonight about that contract not being on the agenda. At the time of filing the deadline to file the agenda on Friday, the town did not have the final red line version and had not finished their analysis of the fiscal note, so which is why it was held off. And we also wanted to make sure that we planned appropriately for capacity here at the high school. The council will be looking to set a date next week ahead of the expiration date to vote on that contract. Moving on to resolutions of the council. Item A, Resolution 2023-46, approval of the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Coventry and the Coventry Teachers Alliance CTA Local 1075 from August 31st, 2023 to August 31st, 2026. This
President
is on-
Lima, do we want to entertain a public comment first?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. We'll go to public comment on docketed items only. At this time, we'll take public comment on docketed items. I will allow public comment until 10:15 PM. I'd ask that if you're coming up to the podium and something that you were going to say has already been said, if you could just state that whether you're for or against the contract after giving your name and address for the record, I would appreciate that. So I'll turn it over to the podium. Just state your name and address for the record.
Don Cowart, Superintendent, Coventry Public Schools, 1 Carriage Road, Cranston, Rhode Island. A few comments, some facts and final thoughts for the town council. When we entered into negotiations with the CTA, the school committee chairperson, James Pearson, invited the town to participate in negotiations. The town declined to send a representative or participate. The contract was negotiated in March and April. I shared a fiscal impact statement, a red line version of the contract, a copy of the tentative agreements with the town. I met with the members of the town council individually. I attended executive session and reviewed the contract. I answered questions via email, provided written responses to the entire council on numerous occasions, and this was all done prior to the end of May. In July, the item was continued due to the miscommunication error, which resulted in a pension and medication benefit double count. The error was corrected the very next day, and a detailed response was sent to the town council, school committee, and town officials. The planned 8:15 and 8:22 meetings were not scheduled. Some facts. Over the last 3 contracts spanning 9 years, the average percent increase in salary for the teachers was 1.4%. On 2 occasions, the percent increase was 0%, and on 2 other occasions, the percent increase was less than 2%. The teachers union, along with all the other unions in Coventry, were brought in and asked to open their contracts during the pandemic. The teachers union and SRP were the only unions to do so and gave the school and town $500,000 in concessions. In terms of longevity, 11 AFT districts give longevity, and most have increases 6 times during the course of a career. We negotiated longevity in years 15, 25, and 35, with the vast majority of the year 35 or more employees retiring by the time they earn that last bump. We had 18 teachers retire this year, and all were approximately between year 25 and 35. In 2021, the per pupil expenditure in Coventry was $18,597. 11th lowest of all the traditional public schools in Rhode Island. 63% of our revenue comes from the local appropriation, 31% comes from the state, and 6% comes from the state. Comes from the federal government. Coventry does not pay into Social Security, and a number of other districts do. The school department has been transparent as we have analyzed the fiscal impact of the contract and the school department budget. We have made all the adjustments to the fiscal year 2024 budget to be able to cover the cost of the CTA and SRP contracts. Final thoughts. The teacher shortage in the United States and Rhode Island is and will impact all districts' ability to hire and staff schools. Channel 10 did a story on the topic on August 15th. The Providence Journal has covered the topic numerous times, and the 2023 Kids Count RI Fact Book called the teacher shortage a quote-unquote looming crisis. The significant changes in language, attendance accountability, compensation, and recognition for years of service will help Coventry attract the best and brightest as we compete with other districts for a shrinking pool of candidates. Finally, opening the school year without a teacher's contract is detrimental to the community. We will lose staff to other districts. We will lose students to other schools. Families will not move to Coventry, and the community as a whole will suffer fundamentally and fiscally. For the first time in many years, we have an opportunity to continue on a path of mutual respect and collaboration that will benefit the future of Coventry. I encourage you to vote in favor of the CTA contract.
Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record. Can you just turn the mic on for me? It's on the bottom there, the switch, flip it up.
Oh,
There you go.
it's on now. Erica Holbogen, 7 Red Maple Road in Coventry. Members of the town council, thank you for listening to me speak. Last month, I stood before you asking you to approve the teacher's new contract, fairly negotiated with the Coventry School Committee. I pointed out that teacher contracts do more than determine fair wages for the highly trained, highly educated, and experienced teachers you employ. The contract also determines Coventry students' learning conditions that are integral to the future attainment of middle-class status. All of us here, teachers, SRP members, administrators, Coventry citizens, and you, the members of the town council, also want that for the children of Coventry. In supporting the teacher's contract, you do more than establish a supportive partnership with the teachers and the SRP members you employ. You are securing learning conditions that are necessary to the future successes of the children of Coventry. Please vote for the teacher contract, and thank you for your time.
Welcome. Just state your name and address for the record, please, and make sure the mic's turned on. Up. There you go.
Good evening, Catherine Mayu, 9 Thompson Drive, Coventry. I have been an educator in this town for 24 years. I worked at Coventry Middle School, at Flat River Middle School, at Naughty Oak Middle School, at Allen Shawn Feinstein Middle School. I have been a resident in this town for 13 years. Before my 24 years, I did 1 year in East Greenwich. And I did not get hired. I went with someone with a better degree who did not even stay with them, but that's besides the point. And I was told, whatever you do, Kate, get into Coventry because that is where you belong. And I did get into Coventry and I have been here. And I absolutely love coming into my building and teaching the children of tomorrow. I have 2 children, one going into 8th grade, one is in 5th grade at Washington Oak. The faculty who have raised my children, because I am working to raise other children, that is who you are supporting by saying yes to this contract. It is more about what we do every day for those young minds, for those children. You want scores, you want numbers, you want blue ribbon. We want to educate the children. We are doing everything within our control. We have gone and done everything we could through COVID. And you have to understand, if you do not pass this contract, these children lose again. And I don't know if you have children who are going through school now, but please think about them. Think about the impact that we, as the faculty, every single day, before school, during school, giving up lunch. Absolutely, I'll take my prep and talk to you. Mrs. Mayo, I have a really big problem. Can you? Yes, let's just go chat. I was supposed to do something on my prep so that I wouldn't have to go home and take time away from my own children. But I give it up because that's what I do, because I am a teacher and I love it. So I just ask that you think about everything that has been put in front of you today and you vote for this contract, because we are a partnership and we are something that is going to work together. And if you take this away from us, we'll still go up, but you're going to be taking more away from us and ultimately from those children, whether they are pre-K to leaving and graduating. Thank you very much.
Are there any other members here present for public comment on docketed items? Welcome. Just state your name and address for the record, please. Up. There you go.
John Kelly, 39 Remington Farm Drive. I've been a resident of Coventry since 1999. I've taught in the school district since 1996. I could tell you everything about what teaching has done, but I want to talk to you as a parent. I have the pleasure of having 5 children in this school district. One just graduated from URI. Because of these people and the opportunities they've given my children, he graduated from URI with a degree in biotechnology in 3 years. Because of them. He's now a supervisor at 21 years old in the lab that he interned with at 17. Because of these people. If it wasn't for these people, this community, he would never have accomplished what he has. I implore you, take care of the people who take care of our children. Take care of them. Thank you.
Anyone present for public comment on docketed items? Cody, do we have Zoom participation tonight or no? We do? Anyone on Zoom have a hand raised? If anyone on Zoom would like to make a public comment on docketed items, please raise your hand. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. Last call, public comment here in the high school for docketed items. Public comment is now closed. Now move to resolutions. Item A, Resolution 2023-46, approval of the collective bargaining agreement between the Town of Coventry and the Coventry Teachers Alliance, CTA, Local 1075 from August 31st, 2023 to August 31st, 2026 on page 5 in your packets. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas in the Town of Coventry, the contract between the Town of Coventry School Committee and Coventry Teachers Alliance, Local 1075, expires on August 31st, 2023, and the Coventry School Committee and the school administration and the representatives from the Coventry Teachers Alliance have negotiated a provisional new 3-year agreement pending council approval. And the members of the CTA Local 1075, along with the Coventry School Committee, have voted to approve said contract. And now therefore be it resolved that the Honorable Town Council approves the contract from August 31st, 2023 to August 31st, 2026, negotiated by the Coventry School Committee and the Coventry Teachers Alliance, Local 1075, in accordance with Section 3.14, Section 0 of the Town of Coventry's Home Rule Charter, including funding the fiscal note totaling approximately $6,136,605.40. That needs to be revised. I have the new figure for that when we get into the resolution. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to start discussion.
I'll make the motion
Second.
Motion for what?
to start discussion.
Motion to what? The resolution.
Oh, I make a motion to approve.
Motion from Councilmember Shockley, second from Councilman Pasqua. Discussion. Do I hear a motion to amend the resolution of the total amount to $5,439,838?
Make that motion.
I second it.
Motion from Councilman Pasqua, second from Councilmember Shockley. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
This is just the amendment. I just want to make that clear to everyone. We're not voting on the budget, on the contract right now. We're voting on amending the amount the contract is going to cost.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shockley,
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Manager Perillo, I'll turn it over to you and the finance director.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Savetti and I have worked alongside Superintendent Cowart, the Finance Director, Krista Werner, and Sarah Mangiarelli, in looking over the numbers that they have presented for fiscal 22, 23, and 24. We have looked at all of the areas of concern. There are still some areas of concern going forward that we do have. However, I think the school department has made an attempt, especially in 24 now, to make sure that they have enough money to fund the current contract. Again, there are going to be difficult decisions that both the town and the school have to make going forward in order to fund this contract. I know we all want that to happen. We want the best educators for our children, but it also has to be fiscally responsible in the same breath. I think with Director Savetti and I working with them at a level that I don't think has existed in the past, we can come to agreement, and we look forward to working with the school department. Again, there are concerns about this contract, but we look forward to working through it.
Mr. Savetti.
Yeah, so again, working with the school department, we reviewed their fiscal note, looked at where their projected finishes for fiscal 23, the year just ended, also fiscal 24. So as the town manager indicated, there are some concerns. It appears that there'd be a projected cumulative deficit upwards of 1.2 million as of the end of fiscal 2023. And then fiscal 2024, although the year is just started, the school committee has, the school personnel, finance personnel projecting a deficit of approximately 1.1 million for fiscal 24. However, over the past 2 days, after meeting with school personnel and the superintendent, they've identified areas where they could reduce that deficit to a break-even position. Although utilizing some one-time funds. There's about $500,000 of one-time funding that they can help reduce that. So as the town manager mentioned, there are some concerns going forward. Look forward to working with school personnel. But one thing to take into consideration with the bond vote upcoming. So if we try to project, including the cost of the bond, including the cost of the proposed teachers contract, the SRP contract, as well as the police contract on the town side and the upcoming negotiations with Local 94. You know, you're looking at to fund all these projects and to properly fund some of the costs of the projects that the town's looking at doing, including the sewer renovation projects that you have there. Because currently, right now, you know, the pumping of the high school sewage system or septic system, you know, you're looking at that's going to cost you probably over the next 2 fiscal years, current and fiscal 25, approximately $900,000. It's not included in any budget at this point. So that adds to what we consider a structural deficit at the school department. So I think the council just needs to be aware that, again, there's a lot of projections. We're looking at the next 3 years, but you'd be looking at if the school bond project was also approved, so that added debt service, you're looking at, you'd have to have tax increases of in excess of 7% in fiscal 2025 and roughly 6.8% and 6.4% in fiscal 26 and fiscal 27. And again, a lot of estimates, assumptions in there. You know, we did project based on speaking with the superintendent, what they think their additional cost over and above the contract cost would be. He estimated a 3 to 4% increase in the budget. And as well as some, you know, slight increase, we included a 2% increase in the town's operating budget. So that's just, you know, what this contract would do, as well as other projects and the debt service. So you just have to be prepared, I think, as a council that, you know, you're going to have some trying times going forward in getting budgets passed. And obviously the state law is we can't exceed 4% tax levy increase. So you'd have some potential cuts you're going to have to look in the future to include all these items.
Mrs. Savetti, can you also expound upon the process of looking to pass a levy increase over 4%, what that entails, how that process works?
Yeah,
For
so
the public.
generally, you know, you'd have to apply to the State Department of Municipal Finance or Department of Municipal Affairs, give them reasons for why you have to increase that. Historically, I think it's unprecedented that they approve increases over the 4% for multiple years. So you may get it in the first year, and probably your first year would be when the debt service requirement started, because that is one of the requirements that, well, one of the reasons to deviate from the 4% is if you take on new debt, especially for school bond projects, you know, they would possibly grant that. I can't say whether they will or not, but I think historically, it's unlikely that they're going to increase, you know, allow you to go over the 4% for multiple years.
Mr. Coward, did you have any additional comments based on? No. Manager Perillo.
And I think the town's concern is, as some people have seen, we have started a road paving program and we want that to continue. So that's one thing that we see that needs to be budgeted going forward. We don't want this to be, we paved some roads in year 1 and now we can't afford it any longer. So it's a balancing act between the needs of the town and the needs of the school. We want to, again, pave roads, fix sidewalks, build playgrounds. There's a lot of infrastructure that we're looking to do along with doing what's right for the school. So it's definitely a balancing act that's going to take a lot of commitment and tough decisions going forward.
Excuse me. Discussion from the council. Councilmember Shockley.
I just wanted to speak to reasoning on my behalf here. I think a lot of what we put into budgets is estimating, guesses, assumptions. I know that we will have to decide not to do certain things, both within the schools and within the towns. We do have the benefit now that changes were made based on voter approval of being able to assess a budget and know that we can move forward with that budget on a year-over-year basis, as opposed to in the past where we would put forth a budget that we thought would work for the town and then have to go to voter approval and not know if that was going to move forward. So I think that's something we have to factor in. I also want to think about the fact that I don't know that if this contract lived in a vacuum, that I would approve it. There are certain items that I thought were maybe high in this sort of environment that Coventry's in. Doctoral incentives, for instance, and longevity past a certain amount of time. I work for the pension system, and I know more and more teachers will be working into their 30th, 35th year here. But this isn't in a vacuum. We live in a town where people live, where people work. The teacher contract will always have a larger impact than any other contract in this town because there are a lot of you, and based on your education, you get paid relatively well. So we have to factor in that this will always have a large impact. Coventry salaries are not low. You're on the higher end of state salaries, but most of you live on the top step. So after you finish your first 10 steps, you stay at the top for the rest of your career. And at 89,000, you're within the range of 82,000 to 94,000 that the state is in. The town doesn't have an exact amount we feel is appropriate. If we'd been part of a negotiation, like I said, I feel like there are things that could have been cut from this budget that would have made it easier for the town to move forward with. And I hope in the future that sort of fiscal note is put forth to the town council before over 400 of you are given the opportunity to vote. My guess is you all assumed that it was when you voted yes to your contract. We're a teacher town. Close to 40% of you live in Coventry, according to what information I got from the school committee. For the past few years, we've been telling our teachers that you work in sick buildings. You work in buildings that technically we should be tearing down, but instead we're moving forward. We're hoping to be able to fix a couple of things if a bond is passed, but you're going to continue to work in buildings that are not up to standard, as far as I'm concerned as a resident and a parent. And as far as the school building committee is concerned and RIDA is concerned in certain instances. Because I work for the pension system, I know the hit that teachers took back in 2011. People who could have been leaving with, let's say, the 28 years teachers used to have to work before they could go. Teachers would have been collecting 35. I went to public school, give me a second, 59% to 60% of their salary. Now, newer teachers are collecting 1% a year. So in that same 28 years where you can't leave, you've collected 28% of your salary and put away into a 401A. If I did the math wrong, I apologize. We're comparing this to the police contract, but we gave certain stipulations to our police this year as well, because we want to keep good police in this town too. So while I don't think we can really compare these contracts because the teachers cost so much, it's something to look into. We have a 5-star school here. Our kids are in AP classes. Those classes are helping them in some cases graduate college early. The AP scores are high. You're shining stars when you look at the state scores and the federal scores. You are people who have degrees and you have to continue to get certifications. In any other career path, I think that you would have grown to the salaries that you're at. I also know I could have decided in high school, after high school, to go to college to be a teacher. I like summers off, but I didn't decide to be a teacher. I don't think I like kids that much. I don't want to be around kids all day and teaching them. I like to. But these are all things that I put into my decision
We just
tonight.
limit the side conversations, please. Thank you.
And I'm going to tell you that on a personal note, I let you guys take care of my kids for more hours every day than I take care of them. I've gotten calls at my house about issues that have to do with either behavior or academics that I've worked through with teachers. Things that I might not have known as far as issues with friends, that because of the teachers that I entrust them with every day, I do know. My kids are thriving here. I'd like everyone's kids to thrive here. And if they stop thriving, I have choices. I don't want people to settle for Coventry. I want people to choose it. Every contract can't always be approved, but I will say these are the reasons that I will be.
Discussion from the council, further discussion. Councilman Pasqua.
One of the things that we're not talking about is the cost if we don't approve the contract. denying a CBA in any form is not free. And so one of my concerns is that, let's say this didn't pass. There's things like the cost of litigation. There's the loss of students because there may be a strike and parents decide to send their kids out of district and we're paying for that. We don't know the number on this. So for me, it makes sense to approve this contract because we just don't know the number. It's an endless number. It could go on forever. And when you go to arbitration, you could end up paying exactly what the contract was asking for in the first place, plus you paid all your legal bills and everything. I've seen this happen in Coventry too many times in different situations and throughout the years I've been here. And we know the number. The school department has said that they can fund this contract this year. And this past year, when we were working on our budget cycle, the school department asked us for, I think it was 1.6 million. And through concessions and negotiations, they brought it down to 500,000. That resonated with me because I saw a gesture of good faith by the school committee and the administration. And I realized that these people will work with us. And in this situation, when we look forward to the budget next year, I'm confident and I trust the school department to work with the town to come to a reasonable number to be able to continue funding the schools and fund this without a major devastating impact of 6 and 10% to the taxpayers of Coventry. I just don't see that even the school department would want that for the taxpayers. So I think it's good that we're looking on the worst case scenario and everything, but I really don't believe it's as bad as we may think or may make it look. I think that we could work together and accomplish this and get through it.
Council member discussion. Any council member discussion? I just have a few remarks. So based on what we're hearing from the town manager and the finance director, what it sounds like today is a vote to approve this contract, is a vote to agree to further building upon a structural deficit in the school department's budget. It effectively puts infrastructure investments like the road paving program on pause indefinitely, or any infrastructure investment like that. And we're looking at a forecasted 6 to 7% plus tax levy increase each year for the life of the contract. And based on municipal finance at the state level, it's unlikely that we'll have those extensions above 4% approved every year, if even this coming fiscal year, the next fiscal year. So I trust what my team is saying to me, the administration. I would never call them alarmist or say that this is worst case scenario, because we know from Bob's work that he's conservative and he shows us what he thinks is true and accurate. And he's willing to say if he doesn't have enough information, he won't give us information. So I don't like to think that I know better than him or that I think that he's blowing something out of proportion. I think having fiscal information in front of us that shows those types of tax increases to keep the town rolling is not something to be overlooked or considered an overreaction. I do appreciate what the school committee has done, and I'm sorry, and the school department specifically, to come to the table. Don, Sarah, Chris, I appreciate how willing they've been. I appreciate the partnership that's taken place across the street, shall we say, to look at this fiscal note. We heard what the school department is proposing to balance the budget. I want to be clear, it's to balance these budgets, not eliminate a structural deficit. It's effectively moving it to the next year using one-time funds, which I think is a dangerous game to play. It's not eliminating that. So I think we need to be very thoughtful about our next steps, because come budget time next year, it's going to be what I anticipate to be a worse discussion and more tense than we could have ever imagined than it is now. This is all on top of course, the many anticipated budget increases in big ticket emergency items that we know already for a fact will be due So that includes the start of the school bond debt payments, which I hope that bond gets passed and I look forward to it passing. That includes the surprise completely failed sewer infrastructure project here at the high school with a price tag of over $4 million plus, which no one has in their budget to fix. We need to be able to pump wastewater away from this site. That's public health and public works issue that has to be dealt with. We have a forecast from the superintendent that anticipates a budget ask of 4% increase each year for the foreseeable future. All on top of these two proposed labor contracts, the teachers and SRP. We have to establish priorities and responsible decisions need to be made, and to assume that we can do all of these things on this list that Mr. Savetti's calculated is reckless. We took an oath as council members to be fiduciary agents and leaders and responsible for the town's money. And we need to really think hard about what the decision we're making. And at some point, there needs to be accountability at the school committee level as well, with overseeing the school department's funds. I wasn't really thrilled to see what I perceived to be rubber stamping at that level. I didn't see any discussion publicly about the contracts. And I wasn't thrilled to see that we had our town manager go to the meeting about one of the contracts, ask that the vote be postponed because they didn't have time to finish reviewing the fiscal note, and the vote happened anyway. And the sentiment was, well, I'm sure you guys will figure it out. We need to have better communication and better collaboration in that respect. And I hope that we can continue to improve upon that like we have. It's really concerning to me, especially on a contract like this one, which is $5.4 million. That all being said, I do believe that teachers here in Coventry and across the country deserve a raise. They're woefully underpaid everywhere. And as your union president has stated in the past, it's a noble profession. And I believe that public education is the ultimate foundation of a flourishing community and a successful society at large. I don't think that the proposed contract that's in front of us tonight is far off from one that we can absorb and work together to tackle the structural deficit going forward. I think we're real close. I think we need to have some sense of responsibility to come together and compromise and collaborate to be able to be prepared to fund annual bond debt payments with the school construction, hopefully with voter approval in October, work on repairing the septic system and the sewer tie-in here at the high school, which is another anticipated high price tag. So I'm someone who's proven that I'll step up to the plate with solutions. I've never come forward and just said no for the sake of no, or just had an opinion for the sake of an opinion. If you'll notice, I know that you all won't let me forget that I voted down the school bond a few years ago. And what did I do in return? I stepped up to join the new school building committee and took the time to chair it and lead that effort, because that's how much I care. And that's how much I'm committed to finding solutions, doing things in a fair, reasonable, and fiscally prudent way, because I know what needs to be done. The future of Coventry right now is at a crossroads. So tonight, I hope that everybody takes the information that's been given to them fiscally about what lies ahead and what decision you're making for the next, not just next year, but for the next 3 years plus, even further down the road, and handcuffing future councils beyond you with the decision that you're making today. And it's going to require much more, whatever way this goes, is going to require much more collaboration, compromise, and integrity to be successful. That's my remarks. Thank you. Vice President LeBlanc.
I would like to echo President Lehman's comments. I also wanted a point of clarification. Mr. Savetti, I believe for FY24, you had made reference that the school's finance team has come to a balanced budget that does exclude the 400 to 500,000 of pumping costs. That's not included in their numbers. So that would be a deficit. Plus, there's that $4.3 million septic system that needs to be repaired. And when we asked the school how much they were going to fund of that 4.3, they said that they had no money to fund that. Is that an accurate statement?
That's correct.
Okay. I cannot approve additional expense knowing that we're already in a structural deficit. So therefore, I cannot support this contract tonight.
Further council discussion. Councilor Ludwig.
I'm here to make tough decisions. I'm not afraid of the commitment that lies ahead on making those tough decisions. I'm not clear on why we were seated this way tonight. I asked if we could push the tables together. It was basically poo-pooed. I'm not clear on whether it was an accusatory tone or however it was presented with the term reckless that was previously stated. So what I'd like to make very clear is that we make tough decisions on this council every time we step into a meeting. I have driven on crappy roads for the 7 years I've lived in Coventry, and I haven't had a crappy teacher for my kids. The community that I want to live in has a great school system. I know we're on our way there. I can see it. I can feel it. The decisions I've been making for almost 3 years, I feel have helped put us in that position. I will continue doing so. As I've told some of my counselors, or I'll tell now publicly, I am open to looking at the use of ARPA funds for different things, such as the high school sewer issue. I want to live in a community with a great school system, with great teachers and great kids. If I have to make concessions in other areas, I am willing to do so. I think it is the heart of this community, and I am going to be voting yes tonight.
Further council member discussion. Councilman Pasqua.
Another technical point that is sticking out to me when I'm considering this contract is denying this contract doesn't put the town council in the driver's seat. It goes back to the school committee. And there's nothing saying that the exact same contract minus $1 plus or minus or whatever is what is presented to us again. Denying the contract doesn't give us control or the ability to renegotiate it. It's by state law, it's their job. It's what they do. And to circle back to my statement on kind of sounding the alarm, if you would, we do have the best team we could possibly have up here. We really do. And it isn't a dig towards our administration, our finance at all, that comment, but it's more saying that we're not taking into account that there is a human factor here, that they have shown good faith once. And I feel that they'll do it again when we come up for the 25 budget. We are banking responsibly and saying that it may not happen. There may not be that good faith negotiation, but I feel that that'll happen. Nobody wants the state to come in and take anybody over. Nobody wants a financial collapse. So it would make sense that if that was an issue, or we were looking at a 6% tax increase, that the school would talk with us and they would make appropriate adjustments to put together a fiscally responsible budget.
Vice President LeBlanc.
One thing that we do know, that if this contract gets approved, it's going to be an additional $5.4 million. Another thing that we know is that for FY23, there was a deficit of, I believe it was around $2 million that was then funded by one-time ESSER funds that we are never going to have again. And that's without this contract even being included in the numbers. So again, I don't understand where the money is going to come from to fund this, other than when the budget is coming in front of the council next year, we're going to have to go a 4% max, and it's going to be millions of dollars more going to the school. And we're only going to be able to fund this contract essentially on the school side. But if there's out of town tuition that needs to go, that's more. Where's that money going to come from? We have no idea. And I second the recklessness comment, because we currently don't have a financial plan other than taxing the residents at a max 4% for the next 3 to 4 years at least. And I don't think that's fair to our taxpayers.
Councilor Shockley.
I just want to make clear, because we do have an audience here who's not at every meeting. It's easier to cheer for one side of the table, but that doesn't make council members LeBlanc and Lima wrong. They're not wrong. This is just a hard decision that has to be made. There are two paths to go down here. It doesn't make their path incorrect if we say yes, and it doesn't make us incorrect if this ends up being voted down. This is a really large fiscal decision for a town. And the schools in general are a really large have a really large fiscal impact on the town. So I guess I just want to say, while everyone's here, right and wrong isn't what we're voting on tonight. It's yes or no.
As just a final comment, I guess just to address Member Ludwig's comments, no one asked me about moving the tables together. I'm sorry that you took that way. I just came and sat up here because this is how it was for the planning commission. There was no intention behind that. What I will say based on final comments here is, I personally, you may feel confident that there's decisions that will come forward to make this a path forward that we can afford. What I'm saying is, I'm not comfortable saying, we'll figure it out. There's way too much money at stake. It's a huge amount to just say, we'll figure it out. Because I haven't heard a plan for how we're going to address this. I'm hearing, yeah, I support teachers too, but I personally would like a plan for how we're going to tackle what lies ahead. And I haven't heard that here tonight. So that's really where it lies for me. It's not a matter of whether I believe teachers deserve a raise or not. It's what's the fiscal path to afford it. That's it. Is there any further council discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pasqua.
Yes.
Councilmember Ludwig.
A reckless yes.
Councilmember Shockley.
Yes.
Vice President LeBlanc.
No.
President Lima.
No.
That's 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. Motion passes.
We'll now move to public comment for undocketed items. This is public comment for anything that is not on our agenda this evening. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Are there any members on Zoom? Please raise your hand if you have a public comment on any undocketed items. Going once, going twice, 3 times. Public comment is now closed. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:11 p.m.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice President LeBlanc, second by Councilor Pasqua. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair says aye. We are adjourned.